36,400,000. That is the expected number of intelligent civilizations in our galaxy according to Drake's famous equation. For the last 78 years, we had been broadcasting everything about us: our radio, our television, our history, our greatest discoveries, to the rest of the galaxy. We had been shouting our existence at the top of our lungs to the rest of the universe, wondering if we are alone. 36 million civilizations. Yet in almost a century of listening, we hadn't heard a thing. We are alone. That was until about 5 minutes ago. The transmission came on every transcendental multiple of hydrogen's frequency that we were listening to. Transcendental harmonics, things like hydrogen frequencies times pi, don't appear in nature, so I knew it had to be artificial. The signal pulsed on and off very quickly with incredibly uniform amplitudes. My initial reaction was that this was some sort of binary transmission. I measured 1,679 pulses in 1 minute that the transmission was active. After that, the silence resumed. The numbers didn't make any sense at first. They just seemed to be a random jumble of noise. But the pulses were so perfectly uniform, on a frequency that was always so silent. They had to come from an artificial source. I looked over the transmission again, and my heart skipped a beat. 1679. That was the exact length of the Arecibo message sent out 40 years ago. I excitedly started arranging the bits in the original 73 × 23 rectangle. I didn't get more than halfway through before my hopes were confirmed. This was the exact same message. The numbers in binary, from 1 to 10, the atomic numbers of the elements that make up life, the formulas for our DNA nucleotides. Someone had been listening to us and wanted us to know they were here. Then it came to me. This original message was transmitted only 40 years ago. This means that life must be at most 20 light years away. A civilization within talking distance? This would revolutionize every field I have worked in. Astrophysics, astrobiology, The signal is beeping again. This time, it is slow, deliberate even. It lasts just under 5 minutes, with a new bit coming in once per second. Though the computers are of course recording it, I started writing them down. 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0. I knew immediately this wasn't the same message as before. My mind races through the possibilities of what it could be. The transmission ends, having transmitted 248 bits. Surely this is too small for a meaningful message. What great message to another civilization can you possibly send with only 248 bits of information? On a computer, the only file that small would be limited to text. Was it possible? Were they really sending a message to us in our own language? Come to think of it, it's not that out of the question. We had been transmitting pretty much every language on Earth for the last 70 years. I began to decipher with the first encoding scheme I could think of. ASCII. 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0. That's B. 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1. E. As I finish piecing together the message, my stomach sinks like an anchor. The words before me answer everything. be quiet, or they will hear you. On July 18th, 2020, NASA launched a new vessel. 6 astronauts boarded Goliath 1 and set off to prepare the first human colony on the moon. The preparations were expected to take a year, but the vessel carried 6 months of additional food past that expectation in case of emergency. Radio communication was possible only on the side of the moon facing the Earth. The astronauts were told to remain in this area to maintain radio contact. The astronauts landed on the eastern border of the Serenitatis. This lunar mare was largely covered in basalt and held few craters, making it perfect for colonization. The goal of the astronauts was simple: map the area for colonization and blueprint the construction of buildings. The only real danger on the moon was meteors striking it, as the moon was devoid of any atmosphere. An electronic journal of the day's events was sent back to NASA, along with any interesting photos or videos. Although it was to be seen if anything exciting could happen. It was the moon after all. The first few months of the journals were fairly normal. The astronauts were right on schedule with the predicted progress. They wasted no time to blueprint the area. Everything in a normal town was to be in the future town: a grocery store, a school, a hospital, among other things. Of course, these supplies would need to be sent by other vessels. It wasn't their mission to build anything. Then, on the 17th of September that year, the daily report had not come. It was speculated that it was forgotten, but didn't come the next day either. Radio communication was not successful with the astronauts and was only met with static. The radio tower was seen as working perfectly. It seemed that the astronauts were simply not within range of it. Several missing videos were later recovered from this site. The following is a description of each video. The astronauts were told to label their videos by date, using numbers following the date if more than one video was recorded that day. The first video was labelled appropriately as Sept 16 2020. It was around 10 minutes long and is mostly spent examining small craters near the border of the mare. Near the end of the video, the astronauts talk about hearing scratching noises from the crater, but this wasn't audible. The journal sent to NASA for the 16th of September did not mention this noise. The second video is also labelled appropriately as Sept 17 2020. This video was also focused around craters, specifically the nearby Bessel crater. This is an exceptionally large crater, over 9 miles across and a mile deep. The plan was to eventually build a bridge across the crater. This video is roughly the same length of the previous video. The astronauts begin to make notes of the crater when the scratching sound is heard again. This time, however, it is quite audible and appears to be coming from the basin of the crater. The sound becomes so loud it begins to irritate the astronauts. One of the men looks down over the edge to find the source of the noise. A force unseen by the camera suddenly pulls the astronaut into the crater. His screams are heard briefly before the camera is cut short. The third and final video is labelled Code 7700, Please Help. The date is unknown, but it can be assumed it is probably the next day. It begins with an astronaut with an oxygen tent talking to the camera. He explains in a calm voice that he has been unable to contact the radio. He also explains about how 2 of the astronauts have been horribly slaughtered. At this point, tears start to roll down his face, but he continues in a calm tone. The scratching noise from the previous videos is heard suddenly and sharply. The camera is knocked to an adjacent wall of the tent, and we listen to the astronaut pleading, followed by a heavy thump. The man continues to plead and cry out for help, stating that he can't breathe. The camera is completely turned away from the man, so it is not seen what is attacking him. We see blood begin to splatter the adjacent wall. The man continues to scream for help and is now completely bawling. Blood splatters a second time against the wall, alongside the sound of bones snapping and flesh being torn from them. His pleas for help suddenly stop, and we are just reduced to insane screaming and crying. As blood splatters against the wall again, a bit of brown liquid now mixes in with a bright red liquid. The tearing sounds has since been replaced with that of squishing and sloshing. The only sound the man makes now is a quiet death rattle. Suddenly, the man goes silent and several of his organs are tossed near the direction of the wall. Coincidentally, the night of September 18th was a red moon. None of the bodies of the astronauts from Goliath 1 were ever fully recovered. Colonization of the moon has been postponed until further notice. The team sent to investigate the radio communication problems the astronauts were having refused to talk to the public. Of the 4-man repair team, 2 have committed suicide since returning to Earth. While the 3 videos were recovered, a photograph was also recovered. It is still unknown as to what the photograph is. Southern Television was the first known victim of television hijacking. On the 26th of November 1977 at around 5:10 p.m, an quote-unquote alien managed to interrupt the broadcast of the local ITV station, Southern Television, via the Hannington transmitter. The voice overrode the UHF audio signal of the early evening news being read by the late Andrew Gardner from ITN. The interruption ceased a minute after the statement had been delivered, with the transmission returning to normal after an episode of Looney Tunes / Merry Melodies. Below is a transcript of what this alien had to say. This is the voice of Rillon, the representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command speaking to you. For many years now, you have seen us as a light in the skies. We speak to you now in peace and wisdom, as we have done to your brothers and sisters all over your planet. We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your worlds, as you may communicate with your fellow beings the course you must take to avoid the disasters which threaten your worlds and the beings on the worlds around you. This is in order that you may share in the Great Awakening as the planet passes into a new age of Aquarius. The new age can be a time of great peace and evolution for your race, but only if your rulers are made aware of the evil forces that can overshadow the judgments. Be still now and listen, for your chance may not come again. All your weapons of evil must be removed. The time for conflict is now past, and the race of which you are a part may proceed to the higher stages of its evolution if you show yourselves worthy to do this. You have but a short time to learn to live together in peace and goodwill. Small groups over the planet are learning this and exist to pass on the light of the dawning new age to you all. You are free to accept or reject their teachings, but only those who learn to live in peace will pass to the higher realms of spiritual evolution. Hear now the voice of Vrillen, the representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you. Be aware also that there are many false prophets and guides operating on your world. They will suck your energy from you, the energy you call money, and will put it to evil ends, giving you worthless dross in return. Your inner divine self will protect you from this. You must learn to be sensitive to the voice within that can tell you what is truth and what is confusion, chaos, and untruth. Learn to listen to the voice of truth which is within you, and you will lead yourselves onto the path of evolution. This is our message to you, our dear friends. We have watched you growing for many years, as you too have watched our lights in your skies. You know that we are here, and that there are more beings on and around your Earth than your scientists admit. We are deeply concerned about you and your path towards the light, and will do all we can to help you. Have no fears. Seek only to know yourselves and live in harmony with the ways of your planet Earth. We of the Ashtar Galactic Command thank you for your attention. We are now leaving the planes of your existence. May you be blessed by the supreme love and truth of the cosmos. Later in the evening, Andrew Gardner apologized for what he described as a breakthrough in sound for some viewers. After some modern research, the interruption was recorded on tape and can be seen on YouTube and other video sharing sites. The broadcast message was considered to be a hoax by most sources, although some people still question the explanation of a transmitter hijack. You see, to this day, Vrillen is still at large, and since only the UHF audio signal was hijacked, we never got to see his face. So there is still a possibility that Vrillen really was an alien. And we ignored his request that we remove our weapons of evil for 41 years.